Welcome to MINDSHOCK. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and this is the Red Pill Showdown. Michael Knowles versus Pearl Davis, Part 5. Hopefully the final part. Hopefully. We can only hope. The level of goofery on display from Michael Knowles has possibly been record-breaking. I'm going to have to go over this retroactively and implement the MindShock logical analysis system to actually see if he can approach Craig of Fight the Flat Earth or Michael Sartain in Dunning-Kruger Championship caliber goofery. Because he might. It seems like he really might. As always, if you enjoy the MindShock podcast, find it interesting and informative, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell for notifications if you're not getting them. Just like and comment on more streams. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Like and share. Facebook, Reddit, Patreon, Twitter. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. So let's pick up right where we left off.
But I'll see guys that I never had. But I grew up in a Catholic community.
Though
that wasn't normal.
Because that technology didn't exist.
But now I'm
Oh man. We are back with Michael Knowles and his master class, his clinic in diversion fallacies. He's been putting on a clinic in how to execute diversion fallacies in this bad faith web he has spun. Nothing but red herrings, non sequiturs, and straw man fallacies here.
seeing, ex porn stars as preachers. You haven't seen that? Oh,
No.
Oh yeah.
At least they're ex-porn stars, better than current porn stars.
Thank God.
But people, but even that.
That's my point.
Look, St. Paul persecuted Christians, and then he was knocked off a horse on the road to Damascus, and became the apostle to the Gentiles. So,
wow. Again, this non sequitur spamming. He's like a master of non sequitur. I have to say, I'm actually growing impressed here. He's dropping the floor out on his own gophery consistently. This is impressive stuff from Michael Knowles. I really think by the end of this, it's possible he might be challenging Craig and Sartain for the crown.
people can change their lives. And I think that's something you're kind of downplaying here.
Wow, another gargantuan straw man. The subject isn't even who's changing when. The subject with men's pool of currently marriageable woman. Like this desperate straw manning and diversion. Wow. I have to say, I really have to say, I think he might be able to compete with Craig and Sartain for the Dunning-Kruger Championship.
No, I'm not downplaying that people can change their lives. What I'm downplaying is that not downplaying. What I'm saying is that it's not really wise for men to date former sex workers, regardless of what they say.
Why not? Why not? I'm not saying it's ideal, but why not?
Because I think the best predictor of future behavior is.
Wait, hold on a second. This jumped around a whole bunch. YouTube's back to glitching. Hold on, let me see. It's not going in the right spot.
distinction here, which is that women are the weaker sex, so men bear greater responsibility. Eve eats the apple. Kids
I don't
is
say men.
vicious,
I don't say
and
men
getting
should
married is
sleep
very
around.
virtuous.
I don't say that men should sleep around.
But you
women.
say they shouldn't get married if you were to give advice, which you don't.
I say that men should be extremely too high of standard.
Risk in everything. But to your point, Pearl, you've said that look, you're not prescribing anything. You're just observing how things are, and the men don't want to get married. And right, I guess what I'm observing is that men still like women, even with all the kind of weird rainbow stuff. Men still like even about good and bad and right and wrong. Actually, you know, if he commits a lot of sins, he's going to just burn in hell for eternity. And a $200,000 student loan.
Regardless of how they got there, if a sin is a sin.
I don't like blaming everybody.
You are very likely to get bad information.
Making it a bit more
responsibility, and that my ability to exercise my will is conditioned by my environment.
Okay, I think we're back on track finally. Knowles was, again, just with all these straw man, false dichotomy, non sequitur fallacies. This is where we left off last time with part 4. Hopefully everybody's all caught up by now.
By the laws and the customs.
You think the environment's responsible for the choices you make?
No, that's not what I said. I said I'm a moral agent and I'm responsible for my
Okay, so you
actions,
are responsible.
But my free will, my ability to exercise my will, is conditioned by the laws and the customs and the community in which I live.
And what does that have anything to do with what percentage of women are marriageable or what the Bible clearly says to watch out for? I mean, just the level of gopher on display here. I mean, this is astounding.
Which is why it's not merely an individual question, but it's also a political question for human beings who are the political animal.
Well, that just sounds...
Human beings are the political animal? What? What? Hello, Christopher Allen, Sarah Catherine, Pinto Sack, and Kill the Bank in the house here. I mean, we're really going to try to finish this up here because, oh man, Knowles, I don't know how he can ever come back from this. This is crazy.
Sounds like a lot of words to me.
It is a lot of words.
That
I try to be.
That's making it a bit more complicated than it needs to be, from my point of view.
Yeah, I think it's just describing reality.
And no, I think
but it's not
I think reality is that you are responsible for the decisions you make. I think that's the best. You know.
Can you imagine if you put Michael Knowles like as somebody's attorney, like some mass murderer, child killer? It was the environment. I'm not saying the environment is responsible. I'm just saying humans are political animal. So this child serial killer, he's still marriageable. Somebody should still marry him because, you know, behavior's not static. I mean, these are his arguments. I mean, this is insane. Who could have thought that Michael Knowles would not only be completely decimated by Pearl, but reduced to making just arguments of utter goofery?
One thing I'm really grateful for, you know, in my...
How does one make a decision?
This is where I had to call it last time. Michael. I mean, this has possibly his biggest non sequitur. We're going to how people make decisions. Wow. Michael Knowles needs to go back to preschool.
I guess might help us to break through this impasse. How does one make a decision?
How does one, you weigh the pros and the cons and you make a decision?
Okay, so you weigh the pros and the cons is part of it, and then you make a decision. So making a decision is just an exercise of the will. I think you're close, but how does one?
He's talking about how she's close while he's stuttering and sputtering over his words. I pointed this out in every single part previous to this one where we haven't seen Michael Knowles stutter and sputter and humiliate himself like this in any other interview or debate. I mean, this is pretty much unless people can post some, I've never seen him be this completely decimated and reduced to nothingness.
CEO of decision making?
No, I'm just, I'm using my reason to, examine an aspect.
Look at him smiling and laughing. He couldn't even say he's using his reason with a straight face. I mean, look at this guy's face. He couldn't even get that out. He couldn't even get out, I'm using my logic and reason or whatever. He couldn't even say that with a straight face. Man, his body language and micro expressions have totally betrayed the lying charlatan that he is, doing the devil's work here in his interview with Pearl Davis.
Of human nature.
Mhm.
How does one know the pros and the cons?
Does it have anything to do with what percentage of women are marriageable? Or, I mean, do you really, how much pros and cons do you need to weigh when examining a contract that someone is proposing that you sign that the other party is benefiting from breaking? I mean, with this level of simplicity, I mean, even the most mentally disabled of goofs should be able to grasp this, but Michael Knowles can't. He has to make a whole production of demagogue around all of this.
I mean, it depends what decision, but okay.
But just in general, how does one know pros? How does one know cons?
Let's take abortion. Can
Yeah.
I use an example? Is that allowed?
Please.
All right, abortion. You get pregnant. You Google abortions, then you can decide. And you can weigh the pros and the cons.
So Google is one way. The way that you so what we've just concluded is the way that you exercise.
I used it as an example of one way.
I mean, look at this intentional straw manning. Like, does anybody think Knowles isn't faking here?
No, I think what you've said is right.
Okay.
But what we have agreed upon now is that the way that one exercises free will, that is to decides on a course of action, is one tries to know something, right? And then one, with the knowledge that they've arrived at, exercises their will in accordance with that knowledge, and that is what we call a free choice. And the example you used is perfect, because if you Google something, knowing that Google is like the worst leftist company ever in the history of the world.
Wow, another non sequitur and false dichotomy, because it could be the worst company ever, but to not fall for genetic logical fallacies, Google still comes up with correct information on a lot of things. Now, it censors a lot of things, but that doesn't mean you can't learn basics from Google. Arithmetic, English grammar, certain basics you can learn. But already he's spinning his web of lies and deceit as he's spewing his fallacies to do the devil's work here. I mean, this is crazy.
You are very likely to get bad information,
No,
which is what people.
I totally did it because I was tired. I was tired of the simping. I was really tired of it. I was because I kept hearing people blaming the men for women's like decision making when it came to abortion, and so I Googled.
Oh, you're saying Google gives you good information?
I would say no. Google, the top thing when it's that you put inside.
Google gives you information, both good and bad. I mean, just the level of gophery here. I mean, Michael Knowles' ability to constantly drop the floor out on his own idiocy, I mean, it is kind of impressive. I mean, I have to say, it's kind of impressive. I mean, how many times can someone drop the floor out? I mean, Craig, maybe there's no limit, but with, other than Craig, I mean, how many times?
Side effects of abortion are depression, anxiety,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think you're responsible for your choices.
But okay, but in principle, you just came to a really important aspect of free will, which is that free will is at least in principle. Even if I don't like Google, you like Google, but let's put that aside.
Well,
who likes what's not even relevant. I mean, again, just this constant stack of straw man fallacies, just this constant stack. Liking it has nothing to do with anything, because it gives you both so-called good and bad information. It gives you all information, except for whatever is censors, but there's both accurate and inaccurate information, regardless of what one likes. And so again, what we can take away here from Knowles' performance, I mean, he's arguing exactly like one of these clueless, woke, regressive goofs. It's all about the feelings, the emotions. Let's just abandon all logic and reason. I mean, that's the level Knowles has descended to here. Just utterly decimated by Pearl Davis.
It actually
Bing's
doesn't matter.
a little bit better.
Bing might be better. Ask
Yeah.
Jeeves. But you said you've come to the correct conclusion, which is that free will is the ability to do something is predicated on willing something, and that is predicated on knowledge. Now, what I am saying, the reason why I'm saying that your social environment and your education has some bearing on how you can exercise your free will is that when people are fed a bunch of BS as knowledge
Like everything Michael Knowles is saying in this interview.
by the schools, by the media,
By Michael Knowles.
by Hollywood, by
Who's the-
everything,
who's the
then that
media
is, let me
for?
just finish my point.
Okay.
Then when your knowledge base that you are, the intellectual aspect that you're basing your free action on is compromised and false, then you are going to will based on a lie, and your very ability to act in a rational way is going to be compromised by your experience in your environment.
So he's also proving Pearl's point even further on all the men that have been hoodwinked by society and gaslit into thinking they have to get married no matter what. So Knowles is so utterly clueless here, he doesn't even realize he's actually supporting Pearl's point here. Or maybe he does. Who knows what his goals are here in this Illuminati humiliation ritual that is Michael Knowles humiliating himself here. I mean, literally the worst performance in his entire life that I'm aware of. Again, maybe there's a worse one, and anybody can feel free to post links. But I mean, he's doing probably even worse performance than most of the college woke goofs that he destroys on college campuses. I mean, this is insane. And does he have a total lack of awareness that he can't grasp this? Or is he perfectly aware and he's just perfectly happy to do the bidding of his handlers through this humiliation ritual to reach greater heights of fame and fortune as he pursues materialism while being a complete charlatan and pretending he actually follows the Bible?
But you are still responsible for the decisions that you make, and that's my point. I don't like.
She left the goof speechless. He made the hand gesture, and the goof couldn't even come up with a fallacy to spew. Man, Pearl is just dunking on this fool. I mean, it's just dunk after dunk. Does he even know what's going on, though? He has to know what's going on here. She left the goof speech. When can anybody remember Michael Knowles being left speechless? Usually he's got some kind of comeback, relevant or not. I mean, she left the goof utterly speechless here. Because, I mean, how silly is it to defend as if saying that there's some kind of parody and it's really easy to find a marriageable woman? Like he was talking about parody, again, completely ignoring all these different Bible passages and the wisdom of the Bible. Pinto Sack, I will be doing a retroactive counter here on all the fallacies and dingers that, I mean, Knowles has again dropped the floor out on his own goofery so many times here. I really think he might be able to compete with Craig and Sartain. I'm not sure. We'd have to implement the system. But just, the countless hours here that it took to dissect the goofery alone is giving us an indication of how extreme it is.
I just don't like excuses. I don't like blaming everybody.
Because think how dumb it is for Knowles to just start blaming society next to some child serial killer. Like if a woman killed like a whole bunch of children, it's like, well, maybe she's still married and she's shooting up in the street and, maybe she can't even speak a language. She's mentally gone. Maybe should men still get married to her? According to him, it might not be a deal breaker because behavior is static. Now, obviously, he's going to straw man and red herring and non sequitur spam, but obviously her soul is not beyond saving. I mean, only God's going to be the judge of that. Obviously, any human can get redemption according to the Bible. So, in terms of her soul being saved, obviously that's still a possibility. But does that have anything to do with a man looking to get married picking her? And for whatever reason, Knowles can't summon the basic mental capacity required to understand that basic point. No matter how many times Pearl decimates him, he's either not getting it or he's playing stupid. Probably playing stupid, but who knows?
I just wonder if
I think that women. I think you're overcomplicating it a little bit. From my point of view.
I think I am articulating what you said, which was true actually, but then you reached a non sequitur conclusion.
Oh wow, his psychological projection is on point. He's been spamming nothing but non sequiturs, and now he's projecting that onto Pearl. Okay, so now we firmly know he knows what's going on. He's being intentionally a snake with his devil's tongue. I mean, clearly. Because the subject was what percentage of women are marriageable, and Knowles is the one talking about how society has some kind of influence on people's decisions, which is true, but has nothing to do with Pearl's main point about marriage. So he's been the king of non sequiturs here, and now he's accusing her of it. I mean, Michael Knowles is impressive. I mean, the way that he's able to sink lower and lower, both in terms of integrity and just flat out goofery, is quite impressive.
Which is, you said, actually, yeah, our environment does kind of.
I didn't say it doesn't. I don't say it doesn't
choices.
play an effect. I'm saying that you're responsible for the choices you make.
I mean, how crazy is it that they're even having this long, extended, convoluted discussion that people have agency and are responsible for their decisions? Like, the fact that Knowles is trying to spin out of this somehow, that people aren't responsible for the decision, it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, just absolutely stunning. And her patience with him is actually quite admirable.
And
Ultimately, that's necessarily true.
yeah, that's my point. And so when you're constantly blaming everybody else for the decisions that you make, and I see that a lot with women. I see it's the government's fault, it's your school system's fault, even though, I mean, really, the school system's run by women.
Yeah, well,
teachers are mostly women.
Yeah, I mean, I get sure. Ultimately, the country.
Yeah, the media. Women make
Joe
80.
Biden,
Women make 80% of consumer buying decisions. So the media is catering to women.
Yeah, sure. I'm not denying any of.
Yeah.
I'm not really denying any of these
While he's being a contrarian for hours on end, while saying he's not denying anything.
things. I'm confused because we seem to have arrived at this. You seem to be contradicting yourself, but
another projection point. Where has Pearl ever contradicted herself? She asked what percentage of women were marriageable. Knowles ducked and dodged like crazy, and she's been consistent every step of the way. People are responsible for their own decisions, and men should be cautious, as the Bible says, regarding women in marriage. You know, kind of common sense. Why would you enter a contract with someone where they're going to benefit from breaking the contract? I mean, none of this is rocket science. She's been very concise, succinct, and consistent, whereas he's been the complete opposite, and now I guess that's the last card he has to play, the projection card. He hasn't really played the projection card before during his previous humiliation here for hours on end. So now we've arrived at projection. So we have to give another Dunning-Kruger point to Michael Knowles here, because he's being very diverse in his goofery now. Before, it was mostly diversion fallacy. Now, he's continued to projection. Very interesting. This definitely should be a case study. I forgot who in the chat mentioned that in the last episode, but this definitely should be a case study.
Where am I contradicting?
By acknowledging that.
Look at the goof's face. He got called out on his projection. Look at that micro smile and the shade. Like he knows she just caught him. Like, where is she he's sputtering and stuff. He's trying to come up with something. And he's pretty quick mentally, like pretty much everywhere except this interview. So like you could see the wheels spinning in desperation. Look at the goof's face.
The ways that we get knowledge.
She contradicted herself in the ways which we get knowledge? What? No, she didn't. She just said, look up knowledge, make a decision. She never contradicted anything about the ways people get knowledge. What? Oh, man, this is tough. I think we should do a poll on whether or not we're going to be able to finish this in just one more part, or we're going to need another one or two. I mean, Knowles' gopher is just, he's really going to be incompetent. Like, I was doubtful, but it seems like he really is going to come for that Dunning-Kruger crown.
Will affect the way that we can exercise our free will. But then saying that the ways that
she didn't actually say that things don't affect the way free will is exercised. She actually agreed with him there. She just said ultimately you're still responsible for your own knowledge, even if there's other influence. Now he's pretending she didn't say that.
We get knowledge, which are by definition environmental, don't actually affect our
But you can
exercise
also
of
get
our-
knowledge
Now, she clearly said that there is an effect, but that doesn't remove the responsibility. So now he's just flat out lying about what she said in this straw man and false premise now, a clear false premise in his spinning of psychological projection. She really just needs to be more aggressive here. She's being way too nice to this deceptive charlatan.
through life experience and like watching people that are
Right,
older
but you don't
than
experience life alone. You experience life in community.
I mean, he's really just trying to hit every single contrarian point he can. Because that's an incredible non sequitur. Because yes, you experience life with other people unless you live alone in Alaska in a cabin somewhere, right? Or Canada, or somewhere, somewhere you live. People, there are hermits out there. I mean, obviously, I guess Knowles might not know about them. But even if you're talking about within society, it's still your experience, which was her point. But this guy, I mean, again, this is a clinic in diversion fallacy.
Which is my point.
Yeah, well, my point, I'm not trying to overcomplicate this, is just that women are
I think we're
responsible.
undercomplicating it.
He thinks we're undercomplicating what percentage of women are married, because the point isn't even about why, whatever the percentage of marriageable, why that is. Because notice how that was never even addressed. So he had to spin this. I mean, the level of diversion fallacy, it's like this intricate web of diversion fallacy where he built a house of cards within the diversion fallacy web. And then he's saying even that is not complicated enough. So I think this really sums everything up. Like, he's got no point, he knows it, so he has to pretend that it needs to be even more complicated to make him look not like a complete moron, even though that's what he just made himself look like. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, I'm really curious as to how many super dingers Knowles has committed here, because it's been quite a few. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Craig and Sartain are still ahead of him, but I think he really might be going for the bronze at least. I think he might.
Well,
which is why you've reached an erroneous conclusion.
No,
Now, what erroneous conclusion did she reach? That men should be careful because there might not be that many marriageable women out there? Is that the erroneous? Like, I would have asked her, if I were her, I would have asked him to clarify which erroneous conclusion, because I'm not even sure he would know which erroneous conclusion he's even referring to, because he's just kind of talking just to talk now, to try to not look as dumb as he made himself look.
I think that women were responsible for the choices that we make, and I'm just
you have
not
said
really
that.
into. I'm really
Wait, so he doesn't agree? So he's just that much of a misogynist? He thinks women are too dumb to be responsible for the choices they make? That's kind of messed up. Look at the glee on this goof's face. He's really happy that she said that women are responsible for the choices they make, even though he's specifically not agreeing here. I mean, this is crazy. Let's zoom in here. Look at the glee on this scum's face. Look at the glee here. And again, let's not forget, he had the same glee when he was talking about his friends or good friends that got demolished in divorce court and can't see their children. He was laughing about it. Then, let's not forget how hard he was laughing when he said men use women for sex. Did you guys remember that from the last one or two parts? He had sheer glee on his face. So this guy must hate both men and women. I mean, look at the glee on this scum's face. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, this guy's like anti-human. I mean, the devil really seems to be using him as an instrument, using this charlatan as an instrument.
not into it.
He just can't hide it. He can't hide it.
I'm just not into it. Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, what you're trying to get at is to say, regardless of how they got there, if a sin is a sin, if it's still sin, regardless if the culture tells you it's okay to do, at the end of the day, it's still sin. You still have to answer.
You know what's crazy? I don't know who Pearl's producer is. Is he even a Christian? Is he just a random guy with at least, a basic comprehension of the Bible, which either Knowles doesn't have or pretending not to have while he's being a charlatan here? Like, does it really need to be said that a sin is a sin? I mean, wow. I mean, this is really weird.
So
I mean, Knowles is clearly very feminine. I mean, that's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
So what our friend Glenn has mentioned here off
Yeah.
camera is he made the point, and
Look at how he's stuttering here. Like, I've never seen Knowles like this anywhere else. Like, he knows he's getting wrecked.
apt point for this discussion, which is that a sin is a sin, whether you want to do it or not. But that actually is not the traditional teaching of the church. There are certain Protestant denominations that say that that's true. But the traditional teaching of the church, still the teaching of Catholic Church and Eastern Orthodoxy, is that there are different types of sin.
Wow, talk about non sequiturs. Talk about diversion fallacy. Like, wow, this is a master clinic in diversion fallacy. So he's misrepresenting everything and saying the complete opposite. Like, for example, now again, I'm not a biblical scholar by any stretch. And if there is one in the chat, I'm pretty sure on this. So, for example, if you confess your sin, whereas if you pretend it's not a sin, and it's okay simply because society said so, that doesn't absolve you of it. That will not save your soul. So if you do not take accountability, which is what Pearl's talking about, like, how can you confess your sin if you don't think it's a sin? Like, if you think it's good to kill people, whatever, your soul's not going to be saved. So, I mean, this level of just idiocy, I mean, we're talking about pure idiocy here now. I mean, we're talking about pure idiocy from Michael Knowles. Pinto Sack says, I don't even know WTF he's talking. He doesn't know what he's talking. He's just making stuff up at this point. Because this is basic Christianity. How can you confess a sin if you don't know that what you did was a sin? I mean, we're talking basics here. Like, even mentally disabled people can grasp this. And yet Michael Knowles does not appear to be able to grasp even the general basics of Christianity while claiming to be this devout Catholic. I mean, the level of deceit mixed with the goofery here. I mean, this is unique.
There's venial sin, and there is mortal sin. And what's the difference? The difference is that a mortal
Now again, he's spinning into these diversion fallacies and non sequiturs. Because it doesn't matter. That doesn't change what percentage of women are marriageable for men that are trying to get married. So, just the level of goofery here. So, venial sin, according to Catholicism and Lutheranism, a venial sin is a lesser sin that does not result in a complete separation from God and eternal damnation in hell, as an unrepented mortal sin would. So, again, this has nothing to do. I mean, he's the king of non sequiturs here, as he accurately psychologically projected and accused Pearl of committing a non sequitur and reaching erroneous conclusions, while he's the goof, spamming almost non-stop non sequiturs within his entire performance here, which can be summed up as a giant diversion fallacy. Because whether somebody's going to be damned to hell for telling a little white lie versus some kind of serial killer that's killing 100 children, that doesn't change what percentage of women are marriageable. That doesn't change the fact that it might not be intelligent into entering a contract where you invite the state into your contract that the other person benefits from by breaking. None of that has anything to do with venial sin versus mortal sin. But it's like he knows he's got nothing, so he just has to make up nonsense and non sequiturs to appear that he's not being completely demolished here. I mean, this level of annihilation, I mean, I'm not even sure I've seen this level of annihilation before.
Sin is committed with full knowledge and with your consent. So the
Do
reason
women not know they're getting rid of the dads in the home?
I think women are fed a bunch of lies.
Wow. Whoa. 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 So, well, she just completely destroyed him with that question, by the way, for if anybody was sleeping on that. So he's talking about, so obviously mortal sin, technically, it would be a sin for the woman to destroy the home and the sanctity of the marriage, other than in extreme cases. Obviously, the majority of divorces are not because the husband is beating on her and the kid. Obviously, a certain percentage are, and those are fully justifiable. But there's quite a few divorces that have nothing, that do not involve the husband engaging in physical violence against her or the child. Oh, man. So, yeah, here's the thing. So she kind of decimated him again with that question, because the women who, whatever, they're bored of their husband, they're getting divorced for that particular reason, whatever, emotional issue, something that they clearly admit that there was no physical abuse on her or the child. They clearly admit that that's not part of the equation. Obviously, they know that they're removing the father from the home. And look at how he has to spin to they're fed a bunch of lies. That doesn't change that they were aware of what they did. I mean, he is such a misogynist here. He's basically saying women are so dumb they don't even know what they're doing. I mean, he must really hate women and think that they're so stupid. I mean, and he accuses the red pill guys of doing that. The red pill guys don't do that. The red pill guys respect women enough to realize that, women are adults with free agency and they're responsible for their decisions just like men. Just like adult men, adult women, they're all responsible. But Knowles hates women so much, and of course men too, that he doesn't even respect women enough to think that they could have made a decision with knowledge, with some kind of basic level of understanding. He doesn't think that. He's immediately going to fed a bunch of lies. Like he's doing to everybody every time he's been opening his mouth this entire conversation.
By our modern liberal feminist culture. And it doesn't obviate the fact that what they're doing is often sinful, but it
Wow, often sinful, not always. Well, the level of cope here, I mean, also this goof, the amount of cope here, I mean, we could probably power an entire continent off the level of cope that Knowles is producing here.
It does create an important distinction. And the reason I really don't mean to be pedantic on this point, but this is like the fun.
Well, obviously he is. Freudian slip there, admitting what he is meaning to do, in addition to all the psychological projection.
Fundamental distinction between a liberal individualist worldview and a more conservative traditional.
Which has no relevancy. I mean, this is more of a red herring because there's a slight relevancy because Catholic women do get divorced less than non-Catholic, but they still divorce, and they still divorce for purely emotional or, non-physical abuse reasons. And he's completely dodging that with all of these non sequiturs and red herring fallacies, all part of this giant web of diversion fallacy. And now he's added quite a bit of projection as well.
Classical worldview is what free will is. And the liberals on the left and the right believe that freedom is the ability to do whatever you want whenever you want to do it. And the conservatives believe that freedom is doing what you ought to do.
Which, again, has absolutely nothing to do with 1% of women are marriageable, or that it might be logical to not enter a contract that you invite the state, the coldest of all cold monster, the number one killer of humans in history, invite the state into your home and into your contract that the other party benefits from breaking. Everything that Michael Knowles is talking about has nothing to do with it. Hey, real offended. Yeah, this series is crazy. This series, I mean, I was not expecting this from Knowles, and I actually am surprised by Pearl. I mean, obviously she's not this great intellectual, but she is mopping the floor with Michael Knowles like I don't believe anyone has ever done before. I don't think anybody's even come close to mopping the floor with Knowles, but she's doing it with ease. With ease. I mean, this is crazy.
So what sin are women not responsible for?
What do you mean?
I mean, he's got to be fake. I mean, this guy's a literal actor. This guy's a trained actor. So so now he's been so destroyed. I mean, he's going to these playbook. He's going through his playbook like he's desperately grasping for all these cards he hasn't yet played. When you're completely destroyed, simply ask, "What do you mean?" Like he clearly understood what she meant. He just spent a half an hour talking about sin and free will. And now all of a sudden, he doesn't know what topic they've been discussing for the past 30 minutes? And look at the group's face. He's clearly acting. He's pretending to be confused here.
Like what? I'm confused at your point. Like what sin are
Well, aren't we all? What point? What point is there?
women not responsible
I'm saying there's
for?
I'm saying that
So are you saying they're venal?
He's saying he can't answer the simple question because it's like he immediately sputters and spins. He doesn't give a direct answer because he knows she's got him cooked. I mean, she's got him complete. He's been roasting this entire time. I mean, this is crazy. Michael Knowles taken down by Pearl Davis, a random TikTok reactor turned YouTube commentator.
Venial sins?
I'm saying that there is a distinction between venial and mortal sin. And
Talk about pedantic. Wow. Talk about non sequitur.
Okay.
I'm suggesting that knowledge and consent to sin
Right.
are integral parts.
I'm just
And does that change the percentage of marriageable women? Because that's the main point. That's the whole subject of this discussion. And yet he can't stick to the subject to save his life.
trying to apply what you're saying to the analogy. So if women are choosing to get STDs, abortions, be single mothers,
yeah.
alienate children.
And they're full, I mean, obviously, even mentally disabled people are fully aware. I mean, obviously, the level of disability, but they're fully aware. I mean, who is not aware that you might get an STD from activity? I mean, is there someone not aware? Is there someone not aware you can get pregnant from having relations? I mean, what is Knowles trying to say? There's lack of knowledge and consent? Like, what is he trying to say here? Because he's failed at demonstrating any iota of not just logical comprehension, but logical back and forth, logical dialogue, consistent dialogue that wasn't non sequiturs. Because what sin is he saying women don't have the knowledge of? The only thing I can think of is if they don't believe the unborn are even human lives. I mean, maybe he can try to angle something into a certain percentage of women getting abortions, but that has nothing to do with the rest of it. I mean, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Just give me 1 second to tweak the mic real quick.
Children
I'm saying
from their
that
dads,
when
you know,
I'll tell you exactly what I'm saying.
where in this
No, I'll tell you
in
exactly
this
what
process or
He just keeps saying, I'll tell you exactly, without actually saying it. Have we ever seen Michael Knowles this decimated and sputtering? I don't think we have. This is crazy.
are they
When women
sort of responsible?
when women have been
Not?
raised their whole lives, probably maybe by divorced parents, raised their whole lives to be told to pursue a career rather than family, to go on the birth control pill at age 12, to go to college and study some stupid nonsense and get a $200,000 student loan as a result of that.
Does that prevent them from knowing they might get an STD or they might get pregnant if they have relations? Does what? Like what? I mean, he really is consistent in his non sequiturs.
That there's no such thing as right and wrong. There's no such thing as virtue. You just got to go get your bag.
Well, that's a straw man false premise as well. I mean, everybody's taught right and wrong. I mean, they kind of just pretend it's not or do it anyway, and then there is an idealization of materialism and etc. But children are still taught right and wrong in general. Like, don't kill people, don't rob. So his straw manning and false premises here, in addition to the non sequitur, I mean, this is quite humiliating for Knowles.
And maybe you're going to end up on OnlyFans because you can make more money doing that than you can waitressing. When they're told that,
Who's telling them that? Are the schools telling them that? Are the parents telling? Nobody's telling them that other than random influencers online, and they come to those conclusions on their own. Who's telling them that? That's like excusing men for being drug dealers or whatever, or criminals. because it happens, they see it in the media, but nobody's. Can you imagine how dumb Michael Knowles is and not realizing how dumb he is? Because it's like if a man becomes a drug dealing gangbanger killing people, nobody told him that that was good in school or whatever. They did that anyway. Yes, it might have been glorified in the media, but nobody told them or lied to them and said that it was good or you should do it. But the level of goofery Knowles is intentionally spewing here, I mean, this is crazy. Again, I have to express my shock and awe on his ability to drop the floor out on his goofery. Because imagine if you just swap genders there and talking about guys being drug dealers and murdering gangbangers. And pretending that society told them that that was good or to do that. Just because a lot of them, a certain percentage, you know, a decently high percentage, end up being criminals, that doesn't mean that there was a culture pushing it. You know, teachers aren't telling children, you know, young girls to do, I mean, they're telling them to, do, you know, prioritize the career maybe. They're not telling them to go on OnlyFans or any of this, or, you know, to become adult content workers. They're not specifically telling them to do that. And he's kind of pretending they are to excuse it away. Like, what is his goal here other than to do the devil's work?
Their entire lives. It's not that they don't bear any moral responsibility, but it is greatly reduced compared to someone who has proper knowledge and the exercise of their will.
Oh, see, I've been on the
Wow, the misogyny's off the charts. Because I don't think he would say that for men who become drug dealers and gangbangers. Who thinks he would make the same argument for men who become drug dealer, gangbangers, and just, you know, evil criminals? Just because that happens to be on the media and in video games. Now, obviously, that could have an effect in their decisions, no doubt, no doubt. But would he say it greatly reduces responsibility? I mean, he's just this all-out misogynist.
other side of this.
What's the other side?
No, the other side is, it doesn't matter. No, because again, it's like you tell women these things, younger women, but women are going to do what they want to do.
I guess I'm just confused
anyways.
because previously you said that it's all different now because of the social conditions
Oh,
have changed. But now you're saying it
No,
doesn't
no,
actually
I'm saying
Well, aren't women told? Again, Michael Knowles just contradicted himself again. Because if women are pushed into careers and going high-level degrees, they're not, like, the opposite of that is OnlyFans. Like, the women that abandoned all of that in these high-paying careers because they can make more money through sex work that doesn't require any degrees or college or all this. So, again, the level of contradictory goofery that Knowles is spewing here, I mean, I'm not sure I've heard anybody spew this level of deceit. This level of deceit while being a complete charlatan. I mean, there's no good faith here to be found from Knowles.
Yeah, I'm saying there's more freedom. I'm saying there's more freedom for women to do what they want to do. And I think that when you have the
by
most
the liberal
freedom,
definition of freedom. Right?
I think when you have the most choice, you see what people truly want to do. Not what they say they want to do, but what they choose to do.
And how do people come to their desires is the point.
I know.
Because, yeah, that's totally related on how they came to whatever desires they happen to have. Again, nothing to do with what percentage of women are marriageable.
We're going to go back to Google, huh?
No.
So I'm trying to
part of it
understand.
is through habit.
So
you know, if you get a guy who is a Hunter Biden, you get a
Okay.
guy who's like a drug addict, derelict,
Yeah.
right? And you put him in a room with a bunch of hookers and blow and a cello. And you say you can do whatever you want. You can go play Bach on the cello, or you can go hang out with the hookers and the blow. Hunter Biden or a guy like him probably not going to pick the cello. But if you go to a guy who's relatively
Holy non-congruent argument fallacy, Batman. Did that have any relation to anything? What? Now, if the guy is all about the blow and the hookers, perhaps he's not marriageable material, which is the whole point here. We're not talking about who's going to choose what or why. The question was the percentage of marriageable ones. So, I don't know, man. I don't know how much I could last. We might not be able to finish it in one more part in this part here.
upright and who has cultivated virtue and believes that actually, if he commits a lot of sins, he's going to just burn in hell for eternity, and he
But wait a second, what if he doesn't know it's sinful?
Loves God and everything, and you put him in the room with the hookers and the blow and the cello. I'm not saying 100 times out of 100 he's going to pick the cello, but a lot of times that guy's going to pick the cello. And so those two guys.
Why would he pick the cello, though? What if he doesn't like the cello? He could just walk out of the room. I mean, just the level of cluelessness here. Dave Scott in the house corrected me. It's not Batman, it's Batmam. Especially dealing with Knowles, it definitely would be Batmam and not Batman. Sphinx Bear here as well. I mean, this is a complete demolition. I mean, wow.
Have the same choice available to them, but their wills are inclined toward different things.
But you're still responsible for your sin.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm not really in the, I don't think coddling women helps us.
I don't think addressing social reality.
I think
making excuses, being misogynistic, and denying the free agency and responsibility of one particular gender is not social reality. I mean, wow. This guy's out there.
I think it's just a bunch of excuses. I think as a woman, I know women in the same environments that picked completely different things. So that's my opinion. You can disagree.
I wonder if Knowles also excuses all these young men just playing video games in their mom's basement full time, because that's society, right? That's just societal reality, right? They're not fully responsible. They're partially responsible, but not fully. So maybe they're still marriageable as well, right? I mean, just wow. I mean, this is crazy.
But I know women.
Right. People are
I know
different.
women. Yeah.
People are different. Oh man, Sphinx Bear says, so between this and the firing of Candace Owens, is the Daily Wire trying to blow itself up? I mean, I cannot believe that Knowles actually posted this. Again, we have to go back to the theory that this is Illuminati humiliation ritual.
I know women that, they're in the same family. One chose sex work or something similar. One chose to be a housewife. Same family.
Right. But if you're saying, like,
he keeps ignoring that point and just sputtering and stuttering. I should make a montage. I bet he's stuttering and sputtering for at least half of the entire time of this interview. I mean, he's done it more in this interview than in every single interview he's ever done, and every single debate he's ever done in his entire life.
The point you opened with, when you say, look, it's different for the younger than 30 women or whatever. It's total, because the social circumstances have changed. I agree with you. But then the thing that has changed is not the women and the nature of the women. The thing that has changed is the social circumstance.
False dichotomy again. Because I mean, is Knowles just this deceitful or this? Dave Scott says we need a sputters per minute. Oh man, you guys, man, this is gonna take me forever. I already have enough to. I thought this was gonna be a one-parter. We're on part 5, and honestly, I don't think I'm gonna finish it. Like, there's only so much goofer I can handle. I am a mere mortal. With Knowles dropping the floor out on just the level of goofery and bad faith, I mean, there's only so much longer I could last here.
And so the place you're placing the blame.
So he's that deficient. He thinks that it couldn't be the women, younger generation women changed, and society changed. It can't be both, according to Knowles. It can only be one, and he definitely is not going to put the blame on women because he has no respect for the female gender, I guess. He doesn't think that they have enough agency to be responsible for their decisions. Men can't, according to him, the men can, but the women can't. I mean, this is misogyny and sexism here, although I would say he still hates men, though. He still hates men, but he seems to respect men. He seems to hate both men and women, but he seems to respect men enough to think that they're responsible for their own decisions while women aren't. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I mean, Michael Knowles has completely exposed himself here as a misogynist charlatan.
Even you, as you describe it, is in those changing laws and customs and norms, not on the nature of women.
That was totally not what she said. she was talking about the fraudulent nature of divorce courts and family court and men not being able to see their children. She wasn't talking about that's going to change men. That might incentivize. If the contract was made better, they might enter into. Like, it's like he intentionally missed every point.
No, I still think you're responsible.
Dave Scott says he's a typical self-loathing sociopath. You know what's crazy is, to me, it wasn't evident until this interview. I mean, maybe it was evident in other interviews, but I just didn't get that. Because in other interviews where he's destroying all these woke goofs, that, by the way, he's arguing as the woke goofs argue here, but in his college appearances and other debates, even with adults, non-college students, higher level intellectual people, it seems like he was arguing for the good of humanity and exposing complete, regressive policies and degenerate. He was exposing degeneracy, but here he does appear to be a typical self-loathing sociopath. I just haven't seen it in other interviews or appearances. Dave Scott, if you have, let me know which ones. That'd be kind of interesting to see if he's kind of always been like this, because I don't know.
But I don't think the laws are fair to men.
So you would, and you would change the laws, but you don't blame the laws for the problem. But you would change them anyway, because they're.
What? Wait, what? You don't blame the laws, but you would change. She clearly blamed them. She just wasn't saying that makes men not responsible for their actions, like he's claiming that women aren't fully responsible because of society. Oh man, this is kind of hard. His mental gymnastics here are kind of hard to keep up with. I mean, did anybody follow what he just said? Like, he just stacked straw man on straw man, then false dichotomy.
Well, if I can legally kill someone, should I?
It depends the circumstance.
I mean, wow, he's more of a contrarian than Joe Rogan. Okay, I have to say. Whoa, okay. Is Michael Knowles more of a contrarian than Joe Rogan? Because even Joe Rogan, in his contrarian goofery, he doesn't always go every second contrarian goofery. I mean, he has his streaks where he does a lot of it, but I don't know if he's ever gone full vegetable contrarian like Knowles did here. I mean, this is crazy.
But in general.
What's in general? I mean, if he's like threatening your family, perhaps.
That's in general? Is somebody threatening your family? That's the opposite of in general. That's a very specific... Okay, hold on a second. So Michael Knowles, he opened this up with not knowing what... He was confused on several basic terms, like sexism, even marriageable. What is marriageable? Now he doesn't know what the word general... She's talking about general, and he brought up a very specific non-general example. I mean, just... Wow. I do not believe Michael Knowles is genuinely mentally disabled. He's acting like he's mentally disabled, but it might all be part of humiliation ritual. So he's pretending he doesn't know what the word general means. Can anybody believe we've actually descended to this level? She says, in general, if it's legal to kill people, should you kill people? He said, what do you mean by in general? What if the person's threatening your family? Like a clear opposite of an in general. Like a super specific non-general example he's bringing up by asking her what she means by in general. Man, I'm getting exhausted here. Just the level of cope, mental gymnastics, and faking mental disability. I mean, wow. I mean, this might be the longest analysis series thus far. I mean, the Joe Rogan one, I think, was 5 parts. This is already part 5. I'm not going to finish this. I mean, the level of goofery is... Dave Scott said, we may need to see a tie your own shoes video from him as well. Can Michael Knowles tie his own shoes? I think he can. I think this is all just humiliation ritual.
Perhaps. If he's just, you don't like the cut of his jib, probably
Yeah,
not.
but you know what I'm asking.
Probably not. If you don't like the cut of, what did he say, of his jib? Is that what he said? Cut of your jib? It's like some kind of... Is that like a 17th century term for one's general appearance or personality? So he just said, if you don't like someone's appearance or personality, probably not. He didn't say it's not, you shouldn't kill them. Probably not. So in certain circumstances, if you don't like someone's look or personality, you should kill them, according to Michael Knowles. He said probably not. You probably shouldn't kill somebody if you just don't like their look or personality. Not definitely. You probably shouldn't kill them. I mean, can Michael Knowles make it any more obvious that he's being the devil's instrument here?
Okay.
I don't know what you're asking. Pearl,
He doesn't know what she's asking. She clearly just asked, if it's legal to kill people, should you kill people? He doesn't understand that question. I mean, he looks like he's acting here again, back to acting. Like, is anybody else exhausted of the cope, goofery, and mental gymnastics of Knowles? We haven't even been going that long, but man.
I promise you, I do not know what you're asking.
That's.
He promises her she doesn't know what she's asking when she asked one of the most basic moral questions in history. Should killing people randomly in general be okay? Whether it's legal or not. She said if it was legal. And he doesn't know what she's at. We're not talking about self-defense. We're talking about just the general rule of thumb. And he doesn't know what she's at. Now, when somebody's pretending to be this level of vegetable, why would anybody continue talking to them? I mean, is she getting paid for this? Like, does she have to stick around till the end?
What I'm saying is, like, just because you can do something, it doesn't mean you should.
I mean, the fact that she even has to explain this. I mean, how crazy is this? I mean, don't 4-year-olds learn this in preschool? You know, you could hit somebody, but it doesn't mean you should. You could steal someone's lunch. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. Pearl Davis is having to explain 4-year-old morality to Michael Knowles? I mean, how much further can we sink here? Can we sink further than this? I think I need to do a poll. Let's do a poll. Let's see what everybody thinks. Is it possible to sink further than this level of discussion on just because you can do something doesn't mean you should? That's the level we've sunk to. Zakem66 says, we have sunk low enough already. Everybody's voting that it's possible to sink further. I don't know how. But apparently 80%, it's 80% possible to sink further. I'll give it another minute. But, wow. This is crazy. 67% now. I mean, I'm not saying we can't sink lower. I'm just having trouble understanding how. But then again, I would have said the same thing a half hour ago. I mean, Knowles has skills in just dropping the floor out on goofery. Knowles is very skilled at dropping the floor out on goofery and bad faith. So we have 71% say it's possible to sink further. Wow. Let's see if we do. Let's see if the chat, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is a complete train wreck. It's like a train wreck psychological science experiment at this point.
It depends what the thing is.
Like, what's your, I'm really just confused.
Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. His response is, it depends what the thing is. The fact that he felt he had to say that. Because he can't even agree with her there. He's gone full vegetable contrarian. Like, he can't even agree with the statement, just because you can do something means you should. He has to respond with, it depends on what the thing is. Again, something that even a 3 or 4-year-old already knows and would take for granted, yet apparently Knowles feels the need to have to say that. Well, I guess the chat was right. We sunk lower. The chat was correct. Oh, man. Groupthink Skeptic says, sometimes they seem to intentionally use sophistry or act dumb only to fluster a superior opponent. It's a desperation tactic. I'm only playing the devil's advocate when they're called on it. Yeah, but I mean, this level, I mean, it's one thing to play devil's advocate. Like at the beginning, you could maybe argue that for certain points. At the point we're at now, where it depends on what the thing is, on like a 3 or 4-year-old argument, what preschoolers are learning. At a certain point, that tactic, I mean, it's just kind of crazy. I mean, yeah, obviously he's full desperation mode. He's got nothing left. He's used up his psychological projection cards. I mean, he's used up everything, and he's completely decimated here. On the other hand, if part of his assignment from his handlers was to increase the ante, to exponentially up the ante on the humiliation ritual, I mean, maybe he planned to do it this way. I don't know.
Confused at what your point is. So are women responsible for?
Everybody's confused. Well, he doesn't have a point. That's why Pearl is confused. I mean, he hasn't made a single legit point that wasn't backing up Pearl while pretending to argue with Pearl. So he went contrary. He went contrarian on his own contrarian. I mean, but other than that, I mean, what was the point of anything he said?
Their sin or they're not responsible.
I think culpability for sin is contingent on knowledge and free consent.
Okay.
So again, what percentage of adult women are not aware that they can get pregnant from relations? What percentage are not aware they can get an STD? What percentage are not aware of what they are doing when they're trying to take their husband's stuff and keep him from seeing their children? They're not aware that they're doing that? What is actually Noel's point here? He's got nothing, and he knows it. So he's, again, is he just acting out a humiliation ritual?
Which are
Depends.
depend upon, to a large degree, how one is educated. And the question of education is very important here.
Wow. Look at his smile. He can't even hide the level of diversion, fallacy, and non sequitur he's going. The level of education. So what level of education renders women unable to know about the existence of STDs? Like, is he saying only private school educated females know about STDs or getting pregnant or initiating a divorce, so they don't know that they're initiating a divorce while they're initiating the divorce if they didn't go to private school? Like, what is he saying here? Look at the smile creeping through, this snake's face. Well, Groupthink said he just said something that wasn't Catholic. He said people aren't responsible for their sin in certain circumstances, which is totally contrary to dogma. Well, everything he's been saying has been anti-Bible. That's why he's a charlatan and a deceiver. Dave Scott saying dupers delight smiles. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, that's what it seems like. It seems like he's not legitimately mentally disabled. I mean, Craig might be. I mean, I don't know. Sartain I'm 50-50 on. But him, I don't think he's legitimately mentally disabled. It seems like he's acting and he does know what he's doing.
Here, because the begetting and education of children is the primary purpose of marriage, which is a natural institution. And so it seems to me that the idea that you are furthering and advocating, which cuts against the practice of marriage.
Wait, she said she specifically, explicitly stated that she wasn't against marriage, depending on the partner. She was just simply promoting understanding what you're getting into and understanding what percentage of women are marriageable, which the Bible also speaks on. The Bible speaks on a lot of pitfalls, in one's life. So complete straw man and false. I mean, this guy's just a blatant liar. I mean, where can we go from here?
Today unravels all of these things.
It doesn't cut against the practice of marriage. I advocate that the laws should change.
Right. And until the laws change,
men have to decide for themselves.
I think you're skirting the issue.
Wow, look at that. He went back to projections, skirting the issue. Is there any issue that Knowles didn't skirt? And he seems to have skirts on his mind. Is that left over from his college days of cross-dressing?
I think that men are tired of being told what to do by women. So I think every man has to decide. Do you disagree that every man should decide for himself what makes sense in his life?
I do. I think men ought to do what's right.
Okay. And you know what's right.
I hope I do. I hope I've cultivated my faculties of reason.
Look at the smile. Dave Scott, you're on point. Every time he talks about reason, you can see that smile creep through because he knows he's talking complete nonsense, illogical nonsense, and blatantly lying about everything. And the micro expressions do not lie.
And moral conscience.
I mean, look at that creep smile creeping through.
To such a degree that they can correspond with God's grace and basically lead me right. Yeah.
I mean, it almost sounds like.
Well, he also skirted the issue right there. Lead me right for his life. What about he's making a prescription that there's parity between men and women for marriage, and that apparently all these sinful women it's an obstacle to marry them, but not deal breaker.
You're playing God.
No, but I hope that I'm cooperating with God, and I'm a rational creature made in the
Wow. Clearly, he's not rational.
image and likeness of God,
Okay.
and that fact.
And everything he's been preaching has been in violation and against the Bible. He was so dumb in the last part. I mean, this is truly astounding. He intentionally took out of context, be fruitful and multiply, which was a specific direction by God to Adam and Eve and Noah and his sons, and he was trying to pretend that applied to all mankind. And even if it did, that has nothing to do with marriage. I mean, reproduction is not synonymous with marriage.
Is borne out in my reason, which is what
What reason?
we're supposedly here to do. And the fact, Pearl,
Well, he was right about that. They were supposedly here to do that, but all he did was spam diversion fallacies.
that you keep backing away from using our reason to come to certain judgments.
More psychological projection there. He's the only one that backed off any reason here.
About how men ought to behave and about
I think she's kind of in disbelief at how clueless he was, how clueless and bad faith. Like, the guy didn't even know what the word general meant. Like, he didn't know the argument that just because you can do something means you should. He was pretending not to understand preschool arguments. I think she was honestly a little surprised that he would drop the floor out on Goofery this many times and he would be this bad faith. Because I think she honestly thought he's kind of smart. Maybe he's at least going to understand. Like, I don't know if she was prepared for him pretending to not even understand basic words and not understand the argument. I think she might have thought that he would at least understand arguments small children can understand and then have some kind of rebuttals and maybe catch her on something. I think that's what she was expecting going in. And when he just went full vegetable on her, I think that caught her off a little bit.
good and bad and right and wrong seems to me a denial of what is basically the premise of any conversation, which is that we can know something about reality and come to conclusions about it. And I think you do come to those conclusions, but then you evade the responsibility for it by saying, I just tell men to do what they want.
Wait a second. How could she be evading responsibility if it's the culture and society responsible for all of what she's thinking? I mean, just the hypocrisy, too. I mean, he's like breaking the scale on hypocrisy as well. I mean, just the level of goofery here. But the psychological projection is pretty on point.
I think that facts don't care about your religion.
Well, you know what's crazy? He wasn't even talking. He got all his own supposed religious tenets wrong. I mean, he was wrong about every single Bible quotation. He was wrong about the word he used, natural, even in the context of Catholicism. I looked it all up. I went through the basic Catholic reference. He was completely wrong about all of the religious points as well. I mean, this is crazy.
So I think facts don't care about the way you feel about them.
What do you think a fact is?
I think that.
Wow. So now he's pretending not to know what a fact is. And look at how he's smiling about it. It's almost like he has some kind of S&M fetish for humiliation. It's like the more she's annihilating him, the more he's laughing about it. Like, he's not getting angry. Like, there's other goofs out there, like particularly in Flat Earth debate. When they get demolished, they get mad and triggered. He seems to laugh and enjoy being dismantled on every level. I mean, this is kind of weird. Then again, if this is a humiliation ritual and he understood the assignment, and he finds it funny that he's getting a kick. He has a fetish for this for being humiliated like this. I mean, that could explain all the laughing as well.
What do you think a fact is?
That women are paid to leave marriages. That's just a fact.
Oh, I thought you meant facts in general.
And so
Wait, what? Facts in general? What? I mean, this is crazy. Like, I've never seen someone intentionally go full vegetable like this.
you know, I mean that's just a fact.
Then again, if he's never been completely decimated and dismantled like this, perhaps he has no other copes. I mean, I don't know.
Fact, and the way you feel about it doesn't change the way it is.
Actually, the way that I feel, which I like to think I've arrived at that through reason, so I think it's tethered to something.
Wait, what? He thinks his feelings were arrived through reason? So does he not know the difference between emotions and logic? I mean, if that's true and he's not faking stupidity here, that would explain this whole interview. But it seems like he fully understands the difference between emotion and logic and reason. And because he utilizes that in his other appearances and discussions and debates and his demolishing of college students. Groupthink Skeptic says, I think he is feeding his Oedipus complex while she whips him with a hanger. Mila 101 in here. Look at MINDSHOCK covering the red pill community. Can you do an investigation on Kevin Samuel's mysterious death? I didn't realize it was mysterious. It was mysterious? Was that a number of years ago back now? He was kind of hilarious. I mean, he thrashed people. Was he red pill? I didn't know that he was red pill per se. I didn't even know that. I thought he was just kind of, I don't know, like a so-called controversial commentator. I didn't know that he was specific. Did he ever refer to himself as red pill? I don't know.
Thing, real. It does affect the way that I behave. And the way that I behave.
I mean, again, the non sequitur spamming. Like, how he behaves has nothing to do with what is or isn't a fact or what percentage of women are marriageable or the fact that, the laws in divorce, in family court. It has nothing to do with his behavior. I mean, what? Man, the chat was so on point on the vote, on the poll, on sinking further. I mean, we're still sinking even further here. I mean, we've gotten to the point where he's talking about his feelings and his actions having something to do with reality or, what's going on in divorce court.
Does, to some degree, affect the social circumstances in which we all live. So,
I mean, he's just talking pure nonsense now. His own feelings and behaviors affect the social circumstances in which we all live. Like, when goofs are completely destroyed and they know they have nothing, they always add useless words. Like, in society's circumstances that we all live, he could just say in society. It's obvious that we all live in society. So adding all those useless words to make it look like he's actually talking and making some kind of point when he's not, that's a very obvious tell here. I mean, he's been sunk for a while now. And I mean, this is crazy. I mean, is there a quota? Is there like a time quota he has to hit for humiliation ritual?
in a way, actually, a friend.
In a way, actually. Like, it affects the societal circumstances in which we all live. In a way, actually. Like, all those words mean absolutely nothing. He could have just said in society. In the social circumstances in which we all live. In a way, actually. I mean, this is insane. Like, the goof sputtering like this. I've never seen anything like this. This is really a case study.
Of mine says facts don't care about your feelings. But politics largely cares about your feelings. And your feelings are cultivated through.
Well, who's talking about politics? We were talking about facts. I mean, wow. He's definitely the non sequitur king. I mean, he's the non sequitur king. I've never seen anybody spam this amount of non sequiturs. He's diversion fallacy. He might not beat Craig or Sartain in total fallacies, although who knows. But he's definitely the king when it comes to diversion fallacy and non sequiturs.
Virtuous and vicious habits. And being selfish and sleeping around and not getting married and not having kids is vicious. And getting married is very virtuous.
I don't say that men should sleep around.
But you say they shouldn't get married.
How is getting married to a non-marriageable woman virtuous if it's going to destroy the man's life, the woman's life, and the children's lives that come as a result of a so-called bad marriage? How is it automatically virtuous? I mean, everything he's saying is anti-Bible, anti-Christianity, anti-logic, anti-reason. And he's so, again, this is all, I guess, agenda-driven humiliation ritual. So I guess he's fully aware? I don't know.
If you were to give advice, which you don't.
I say that men should be extremely cautious when getting married. I say they should vet women heavily. And if there are not enough wives, that might not be the way that they end up going.
I mean, look at the patience. She said that so many times throughout this whole debate, and Knowles spent hours talking about non sequiturs that have nothing to do with what she just said. And she's patiently repeating it again for this guy who's gone full vegetable. I mean, this is like the third or fourth time she said the same thing. And let's see if he actually addresses what she says, or he's going to spin non sequiturs again. Are we taking bets?
So what should they do then?
Wow. So is he not aware that falsification is independent of replacement? Well, serial killers are bad, but they exist in society. Well, like, serial killers are bad. Well, maybe we should have them around, because what else can we do then? I mean, the level of goofery here, it's just crazy.
It's so interesting. It's always back. It always goes back to that, like me telling them what to do. Every guy's got to decide for himself.
In Pearl World, which we were living in Pearl World earlier, then what would men do if they begged you for advice?
I would say go talk to a preacher, your pastor, a preacher,
I thought facts don't care about your religion.
or your father. Or look, I just don't. Again, I'm not in the business of telling men what to do, and that's
You've
just
mentioned
not,
But I think you kind of are.
How is observing that a small percentage of women might be marriageable, or the percentage of marriageable women is not that high, how is that observation advice? Advice would be, you got to really seek out those good ones to make sure you get married. Or advice would be, oh, well, everybody's whatever. Who cares? Get married anyway. It's something to do. Like, that would be advice. She clearly doesn't give the advice. She's making observations from the sidelines. She's not necessarily saying it's good or bad per se, or anybody should do anything. She's just making obvious observations, of which there are quite a few Bible passages saying the exact same thing she's saying.
Not really. Not really. I just don't think.
Do you have any?
Because it depends on the guy. How do because you would first ask, like, what their situation is. Every person has a different situation.
But every man we're talking about is a man, and there are some things that are common to men, like human nature. And marriage, being a natural institution, is something that is common to men throughout all of history.
But it's not.
No, it's not. What? Didn't the majority of men in history not get married, not even reproduce? I mean, let's look up the stats here. So only 40% of men, according to genetic research, only 40% of men have reproduced. I've seen lower numbers too, 30 to 35. So anyway, regardless of which numbers you're looking at, the minority of men have reproduced. So what percentage of men were married that didn't reproduce? Because throughout all of history, most marriages were done with the goal of having children. I mean, not having children and still getting married is kind of a new thing. So this total goof, all he's doing is spewing complete lies, false premises, all in bad faith. I mean, this is just absolute insanity here. I mean, this is really bizarre. And just because something is common, like you could say a lot of men have killed other men, just soldiers throughout history for over thousands of years, and it's natural to kill in war, that doesn't mean people should do what's natural just because it's natural. Appeal to nature, logical fallacy as well. And natural in the Catholic definition doesn't mean what he thinks it means either. It's the utilization of God-given reason to do what is good or moral. So if a woman isn't marriageable, it wouldn't be the utilization of what is natural or reason to marry her anyway. if you can't find a good one. It is not the utilization of logic and reason or natural to settle, for example, like if you live in a village, let's say you can't travel, and the only woman left is some kind of psychotic child murderer, that doesn't mean it would behoove the man to marry her and reproduce with her simply because there's no one else left. It might be better to not enter that situation. Now, that doesn't mean her soul is beyond saving. Obviously, only God can judge her soul and her salvation or redemption. That's up to her, between her and God. That has nothing to do with a man being obligated to marry her or supposedly following what is natural according to Knowles' hallucinations and delusions. And once again, I apologize, but I can't handle this anymore. We're going to have to take another break here, and we're going to have to hopefully be able to finish this up in part 6. But what this has illustrated is that Knowles has firmly cemented himself in the running for Dunning-Kruger championships. Hope everybody found another edition of the MindShock podcast interesting and informative in this logical analysis. You can help support the podcast, donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed, like and share, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.